Danny Martinez wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the time display on his work tablet. Another shift done. 12 hours of crawling through maintenance tunnels and fixing broken air filters on Nexus Station. His back hurt and his clothes smelled like oil and metal, but at least he had finished early today. He walked through the lower market district on his way back to the workers' quarters. The massive space station buzzed with activity. Aliens from 100 different worlds filled the corridors. Some had 4 arms, others had scales or fur. Strange languages mixed together in a constant noise that never really stopped. Vendors sold food that Danny could not recognize. Merchants argued over prices in trade common, the language everyone used to do business. Danny had been working on Nexus Station for 6 months now. The pay was decent, and he sent most of it back to Earth. His younger sister needed money for school. His mother needed help with medical bills. That meant Danny ate cheap food and lived in a tiny room with 3 other human workers. It was not easy, but he told himself it would be worth it someday. As he turned a corner into a quieter section of the market, Danny noticed an old woman sitting against the wall. She wore clothes that were torn and dirty. Her gray hair hung loose around her thin face. A small cup sat in front of her empty. Hundreds of aliens walked past her without looking. Some stepped around her like she was trash left on the floor. Danny stopped walking. He had maybe 20 credits left until next payday. That was enough for 3 meals if he was careful. But the woman looked hungry, really hungry. The kind of hungry that came from not eating for days. He changed direction and walked to a food vendor nearby. The alien behind the counter had 6 eyes and too many teeth. 2 protein packs and a water, Danny said in trade common. The vendor looked at him with something like surprise. That is 12 credits. Danny paid and took the food. He walked over to the old woman and sat down next to her on the cold floor. Here, he said, holding out one of the protein packs and the water. You should eat something. The woman looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes were sharp and clear, not clouded like Danny expected. She took the food slowly. Thank you, she said. Her voice was rough but steady. Danny opened his own protein pack and started eating. It tasted like cardboard mixed with chemicals, but it would keep him going until tomorrow. They sat in silence for a few minutes. The noise of the market continued around them. Nobody else stopped to look. You are human," the woman said. It was not really a question. Yeah, been working here for 6 months. Maintenance division." Why did you help me?" Danny shrugged. "You needed help. I had food to share." "Most people do not think that way," the woman said. She drank some of the water carefully. "They walk past. They pretend not to see." "Most people are too worried about their own problems," Danny said. "Does not make it right, though." Before the woman could respond, Danny heard familiar voices. He looked up and saw walking toward him with 3 other workers. 2 were tall aliens with gray skin and faces that looked like they were carved from stone. The third was a species with blue scales and eyes that never blinked. It was Danny's supervisor. He was 10 years older and acted like those 10 years made him smarter than everyone else. The man never missed a chance to make Danny look bad. "Well, look at this," said loudly. "Martinez is making friends with the trash." The laughed. Their voices sounded like rocks grinding together. The whose name was looked at Danny with clear disgust. This is why humans remain weak," said. "You waste resources on those who cannot contribute. No wonder your species has so little influence in the galaxy." Exactly right," agreed. He seemed pleased to have the aliens supporting him. "Danny here just spent his food money on some beggar. Meanwhile, guys like me are building connections, making deals, actually getting somewhere." One of the whose name tag read Al stepped closer. "Human sentiment is a weakness. You care too much about those who do not matter. This is why the Empire controls 60 systems and humanity controls 12. She was hungry," Danny said simply. He did not stand up. He just kept eating his protein pack. Laughed. "She? Martinez, that is probably some drug addict who will sell your water for cheap alcohol. You are an idiot." "It takes real courage to mock someone for being kind," Danny said quietly. "Big man." Last face turned red. "What did you just say?" "I said what I said." "You better watch your mouth, Martinez. I write your performance reviews. Keep acting like a bleeding heart and you will be on the next shuttle back to Earth. Let's see how kind you feel when you are unemployed." Made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are too emotional. Your feelings make you inferior. Logic and strength determine success. Kindness determines nothing. The kindness is for species that have already won, Al added. Humans have not won anything. You should focus on survival, not charity. The group walked away, still laughing. Danny heard say something about reporting this incident to their manager. Great. That meant Danny would probably get another lecture about proper behavior and station protocol. He finished his protein pack and stood up slowly. The old woman watched him with those sharp eyes. They will make trouble for you," she said. Probably not the first time. Why help me if it causes you problems?" Danny looked at her. "Because if I only do good things when it is easy, then I am not really a good person. I am just a person who takes the easy path." What is your name?" the woman asked. Danny Martinez." Thank you, Danny Martinez. You have a rare quality. And just trying to do what is right," Danny said. "Will you be okay here?" I will manage. Go. Your supervisor is angry." Danny nodded and started walking toward the workers' quarters. He did not look back, so he did not see the way the old woman watched him go. He did not see how her posture straightened slightly. He did not see the small smile that crossed her face before disappearing. If he had looked back, he might have noticed that her eyes held something more than simple gratitude, something that looked almost like satisfaction, like someone who had just found exactly what they were looking for. 3 days passed. Danny tried not to think about the incident with the old woman, but made sure he could not forget it. His supervisor had actually filed a formal complaint. Danny found out when he arrived at work and saw Gregory Hall waiting for him. Gregory Hall was the assistant to the station administrator. He was human, which somehow made things worse. The man had climbed the ranks by kissing up to anyone with power and stepping on anyone below him. He wore expensive clothes and talked like he thought he was better than other humans. "Martinez," Gregory said. His voice carried across the maintenance bay. Other workers stopped what they were doing to watch. "We need to talk now." Danny followed Gregory to the center of the bay. A crowd started gathering. He saw standing near the back with a smile on his face. Al and another merchant were there too. Stood with her arms crossed, watching with those unblinking eyes. "I received a report about your conduct 3 days ago. Gregory said loudly. He was making sure everyone could hear. It says you wasted company time engaging with undesirables in the lower market. It says you sat on the floor during off hours eating with a beggar. Is this true? I helped someone who was hungry, Danny said. On my own time with my own food. That is not the point, Gregory snapped. The point is you represented this station and the human workers here. Your behavior reflects on all of us. When you sit in the dirt with beggars, you make humans look weak. You make us look like we cannot handle galactic society. A few aliens in the crowd made sounds of agreement. Danny saw a diplomat's assistant nod her head. I was being human, Danny said quietly. Humans help people. That is who we are. No, Gregory said. His face was getting red now. That is who weak humans are. Strong humans understand that survival comes first. We are a minor species in a galaxy full of empires that have existed for thousands of years. We cannot afford to waste time and resources on charity cases. We need to be smart, efficient, and focused. Your little act of kindness makes us all look like soft fools. Spoke up from the crowd. I tried to warn him, sir. Martinez does not listen to advice. He thinks being nice matters more than doing his job right. Is that so? Gregory looked at Danny like he was examining a bug. Well, Martinez, let me explain something to you. Out here, nobody cares about nice. They care about results. They care about strength. The built an empire on strength. The built their civilization on logic and efficiency. What did Earth build its reputation on? Nothing yet, because humans keep acting like emotional children. Stepped forward. If I may speak, Administrator Hall, the have a saying, emotion is the enemy of progress. Your worker here demonstrated why humanity struggles. You feel too much. You care about individuals who contribute nothing. This is inefficient. Thank you, Gregory said. You see, Martinez, this is what actual successful species think. They think we are weak. Maybe caring about others is not weakness, Danny said. He knew he should stay quiet, but the words came out anyway. Maybe it is what separates us from machines. The crowd went quiet. Gregory's face turned dark red. That is enough, he said coldly. You are reassigned effective immediately. Waste processing level 7. You will work alone cleaning the recycling systems. 12-hour shifts, 7 days straight. Maybe that will teach you to keep your opinions to yourself. Danny felt his stomach drop. Waste processing level 7 was the worst job on the station. It was hot, it smelled terrible, and the work was disgusting. People only got sent there as punishment. One more thing, Gregory continued. Your pay is suspended for 2 weeks. Call it a fine for making humans look bad. If you have a problem with that, you can take the next shuttle back to Earth. I am sure your family will love hearing that you got fired for feeding beggars. Danny said nothing. There was nothing to say. Gregory had all the power here. A human woman named Lisa pushed through the crowd. She worked in communications. That is not fair, Gregory. He was off duty. He can help whoever he wants. Stay out of this, Gregory warned. Unless you want to join him in waste processing. Lisa looked at Danny, then back at Gregory. She closed her mouth and stepped back. Danny did not blame her. She had family back on Earth, too. She could not afford to lose this job. A commander appeared at the edge of the crowd. He was the security chief for this section of the station. Tall, gray-skinned, and covered in the scars that wore like medals. Is there a problem here? His voice rumbled like distant thunder. No problem, Commander, Gregory said quickly. His tone changed when talking to the more respectful. Just disciplining a worker who forgot his place. They looked at Danny. You are the one who helped the beggar woman. Yes, sir. Be foolish, the strong do not stop for the weak. Remember that, human. The commander turned and walked away. The crowd started breaking up. People went back to their work. Al said something in that made the other merchants laugh. Gave Danny one last look of disgust before leaving. They walked up to Danny with a big smile. Guess you learned your lesson, Martinez. Next time, think before you act like a hero. I would do it again, Danny said. Then you are even dumber than I thought, laughed and walked away. Gregory handed Danny a data pad. Your new assignment. Report to waste processing in 1 hour. Wear old clothes. You are going to get very dirty. Danny took the pad and left the maintenance bay. Lisa caught up with him in the corridor. Danny, I am sorry, she said. I should have said more. It is okay. You have a family to think about. Still, what Gregory did was wrong. Everyone knows it. Knowing it and doing something about it are different things, Danny said. Don't worry about me. I will handle waste processing. For 7 days straight. That is brutal. I have dealt with worse. Lisa put a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing helping that woman. Don't let them make you think otherwise. Thanks, Lisa. She left him alone in the corridor. Danny stood there for a moment looking at the data pad. Waste processing level 7, 12 hours a day. Alone, it was going to be miserable. He thought about the old woman. He wondered where she was now. Probably moved on to another part of the station or maybe left entirely. He hoped she found food and a safe place to sleep. Was helping her worth all this trouble? Gregory was right about one thing. Danny had made life harder for himself. He had lost 2 weeks of pay. He had earned the anger of his supervisor and the station administration. Other workers would avoid him now, not wanting to be associated with someone marked as a troublemaker. But when he thought about walking past that hungry woman without stopping, something in his chest tightened. He could not have done that. He just could not. Some things were more important than keeping his head down and avoiding trouble. Danny changed into his oldest work clothes and headed down to level 7. The smell hit him before he even opened the door to the waste processing center. It was going to be a long week. What Danny did not know was that the old woman had not left the station. She was still there, watching and waiting. She had seen Gregory's performance. She had heard every word, and she was not pleased. In a small room deep in the station's guest quarters, the woman sat in front of a communication console. Her torn clothes were gone. Her gray hair was pulled back. Her eyes were sharp and focused. She typed in a security code that only a handful of people in the entire galaxy knew. The console lit up. A connection opened. This is Blake," she said quietly. "Begin phase 2. I want the fleet here in 72 hours. The voice on the other end asked a question. "Yes," the woman said. Her voice was cold as space. "I found what I was looking for, and I found something else too, something that needs to be corrected." She ended the transmission and sat back. The kindness in her face was gone now. In its place was something harder, something that had commanded ships and won battles and made enemies regret their choices. Admiral Blake, known across the galaxy as Cat Blake, the woman who held the borderlands alone, smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had just decided that justice needed to be served. The alarm started screaming at 600 station time. Everyone on Nexus station heard it. The sound meant one thing: unidentified ships approaching. In the command center, High Chancellor rushed to the main display. The leader had run Nexus Station for 12 years. He had seen plenty of unexpected visitors. Pirates sometimes tried to threaten the station. Corporate fleets showed up demanding special treatment. But this was different. How many ships? Demanded. 73, Chancellor, the censor officer reported. She was a young who looked terrified. Capital-class warships. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our space. Identification. The officer worked her console fast. They are human vessels, sir. Military classification. The flagship is broadcasting as UHS Valiant. Every alien in the command center went silent. Felt his 3 hearts start beating faster. The UHS Valiant. Everyone who knew anything about human military forces knew that name. Get me a communication channel, ordered. Now. The channel opened. The main screen showed the bridge of the Valiant. Officers in dark blue uniforms worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. In the center command chair sat a woman who looked about 60 years old. Her gray hair was cut short and military. Her uniform had more medals than could count. Her eyes were the coldest thing he had ever seen. This is High Chancellor of Nexus Station. May I ask the purpose of this visit, Admiral? Admiral Blake, commanding the 5th Human Fleet, the woman said. Her voice was flat and professional. I request permission to dock, Chancellor. I have official business on your station. Of course, Admiral, though I must say this is unexpected. We had no notice of a human military visit. That is correct. This visit was not scheduled. We waited for more explanation. None came. Blake just sat there looking at him like he was a problem to be solved. Well, you are certainly welcome, Admiral. We have guest docking ports prepared. Will you be bringing many personnel aboard? An honor guard, 20 officers. That will be sufficient. Very good. May I ask what official business brings you here? You may ask, Chancellor, but I prefer to discuss such matters in person. I will arrive within the hour. The channel closed, stared at the blank screen. Around him, officers exchanged worried looks. Sir, the censor officer said quietly, the human fleet is taking up defensive positions around the station. Looked at the tactical display. The officer was right. 73 human warships now surrounded Nexus Station in a perfect sphere. Their weapons were not powered up, but the message was clear. The station was surrounded. Send word to all council members, said. Emergency session in 1 hour, and someone find out everything we can about Admiral Blake. News of the human fleet spread through the station like fire. Within minutes, everyone knew. In the maintenance bay, stared at his data pad in disbelief. 73 ships, he said to nobody in particular. What are the humans doing? Al walked up looking nervous. The merchant had made his fortune selling human goods to other species. This is bad for business. When military fleets show up, trade stops. Appeared from the communications center. I heard the commander is Admiral Blake herself. This is very unusual. She commands 17 battle groups. Why would she come to a trade station? Gregory Hall rushed through the bay looking panicked. He had been in a meeting with the station administrator when the fleet arrived. Now Al wanted answers and Gregory had none. Has anyone had contact with human military recently? Gregory demanded. Any communications, any requests? People shook their heads. The handful of human workers on the station looked as confused as everyone else. Well, almost everyone. Lisa had a strange expression on her face, like she was thinking hard about something. Gregory, she said slowly, where is Danny? What, Martinez? Who cares? He is in waste processing where he belongs. When did that beggar woman disappear? What beggar? What are you talking about? The one Danny helped. The old woman. She was in the lower market for weeks. Then Danny gave her food, and 3 days later she was gone. Now a human admiral shows up with a fleet. Gregory stared at her. That is insane. You think some random beggar is connected to Admiral Blake. I think it is a strange coincidence. It is nothing, Gregory snapped, but he looked less certain now. In the waste processing center on level 7, Danny had no idea what was happening. The noise down here drowned out everything. He had been working for 3 days straight and he was exhausted. His hands were raw, his clothes were ruined. But he kept working because that was what you did. The door opened. Commander stood there with 2 security officers. Danny Martinez, the commander said. That is me. You are to come with us immediately. The High Chancellor requires your presence. Danny looked down at his filthy clothes. I am not really dressed for meetings with the Chancellor. There is no time. You will come now. They escorted him through the station. People stared as he passed. Danny tried to figure out what was happening. Had he broken some rule he did not know about? Was Gregory firing him and they needed the Chancellor to sign papers? They brought him to the Grand Council chamber. Danny had never been here before. The room was huge, with seats for representatives from dozens of species. Right now, only the main council members were present. High Chancellor sat in the center. Around him were the leaders of the major factions that ran the station. And standing in front of them all, with 20 officers in perfect formation behind her, was the old woman from the market. Except she did not look like a beggar anymore. She wore an admiral's uniform. Her posture was straight and strong. The weakness Danny had seen before was completely gone. This was someone who commanded fleets and made nations tremble. Danny stopped walking. His brain tried to process what he was seeing. Danny Martinez, the woman said. She smiled slightly. Thank you for joining us. You, Danny said. Then his brain caught up with his mouth. I mean Admiral, sir, ma'am. Just Admiral is fine, she said. She turned to the council. Chancellor, allow me to introduce the young man I mentioned. This is Danny Martinez. He is a maintenance worker on your station. Looked confused. Admiral Blake, I do not understand. Why did you request this specific worker? Because 3 days ago I was sitting in your lower market dressed as a beggar. Hundreds of people walked past me, aliens from dozens of species. None of them stopped. None of them offered help. They treated me like garbage left on the floor. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Only one person stopped, Blake continued. Only one person saw a hungry woman and decided to help. Danny Martinez bought me food with money he could barely afford to lose. He sat with me. He treated me like a person who mattered. And when his supervisor mocked him for it, when aliens called him weak and stupid, he did not apologize. He said kindness was more important than taking the easy path. Admiral said carefully, "Are you saying you came to this station in disguise?" "I do this periodically, Chancellor. I visit stations and colonies across the galaxy dressed as someone powerless. I want to see how different species treat those who cannot fight back. It tells me everything I need to know about their character." "And what did you learn here?" Blake's expression went cold. "I learned that Nexus Station is full of people who mock kindness. I learned that a young human was punished for showing basic decency. I learned that supposedly civilized species think compassion is weakness. Admiral, if we had known you were testing us." That is exactly the point, Chancellor. If you had known, you would have behaved differently. I needed to see who you really are when you think nobody important is watching. Ambassador stepped forward from the side of the room. She was the human diplomatic representative on the station. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else right now. "Admiral Blake," said nervously, "perhaps we could discuss this in private." "No, Ambassador. This needs to be public." Blake looked directly at. "I am withdrawing all human trade delegations from Nexus Station effective immediately. Furthermore, I am recommending that Earth Central Command reconsider our diplomatic relationship with the Nexus Council." The council chamber erupted. Every representative started talking at once, held up his hands for silence. "Admiral, please, that seems extreme. Surely we can discuss this." "Well, what is there to discuss? Your station punished a good person for being good. Your people treat the powerless like trash. These are not the values humanity wishes to partner with." One of the council members, a named N, stood up. "With respect, Admiral, one incident should not define an entire station." "You are right," Blake said. "Let me tell you about the others. I was here for 3 weeks. I saw a merchant kick a child who got too close to his stall. I saw station security ignore an assault because the victim was from a minor species. I saw wealthy traders walk past the poor every single day without a second thought. The only person who stopped was Danny Martinez." Danny felt like he was in a dream. This could not be real. The Admiral could not be the same woman he had helped. Blake turned to face him. Mr. Martinez, I apologize for deceiving you, but I needed to know if there were still good people in places like this. You proved there are. Thank you. I just gave you a protein pack, Danny said quietly. You gave me dignity. You treated me like I mattered. That is worth more than food. She turned back to the council. I will hear proposals for making this situation right, but understand this. I command 17 battle groups. My word carries significant weight in human military and political circles. If I report that this station mistreats humans and mocks human values, there will be consequences. Humanity is not the minor species you seem to think we are. Well, what would I have you do? Blake repeated the question slowly. She walked closer to the council seats, her officers maintaining perfect formation behind her. I would have you demonstrate that justice matters more than convenience. I would have you show that character counts for something on this station. A High Chancellor shifted in his seat. The other council members watched Blake with expressions ranging from fear to anger to resignation. They all knew they were trapped. The human fleet outside made sure of that. "Oh, please be specific," Admiral said. Blake pulled out a data pad. I took detailed notes during my time here. Let me read some names. Gregory Hall, human assistant to the station administrator. He publicly humiliated Danny Martinez for showing kindness. He called compassion a weakness and said humans needed to stop caring about others. He docked 2 weeks' pay and assigned Martinez to the worst job on the station as punishment. Gregory Hall had been standing near the back of the chamber. Now every eye turned toward him. His face went pale. Blake continued. Martinez's supervisor. He reported the incident to Hall. He mocked Martinez in front of other workers. He specifically stated that helping a beggar made humans look weak. He was somewhere in the crowd outside the chamber. Danny could not see him, but he imagined the man was sweating right now. A diplomatic assistant. She stated that human emotion makes the species inferior. She suggested humanity would never matter because they care too much about individuals who contribute nothing. Blake looked up from her pad. Al Merchant. He said humans were too sentimental and that compassion determines nothing. He laughed about human weakness. Admiral, interrupted. What exactly are you asking us to do about these people? I am asking you to choose Chancellor. You can keep these individuals in their positions and lose all human trade, diplomatic relations, and goodwill. Or you can take appropriate action and demonstrate that Nexus Station actually values justice. And the council member spoke up. You would punish people for their opinions. That seems contrary to human values of free speech. I am not punishing opinions, Blake said coldly. I am addressing actions. Hall used his authority to punish someone for being decent. That is an abuse of power. Filed false reports claiming Martinez wasted company time when Martinez was off duty using his own resources. That is dishonesty. And Al participated in public humiliation of a worker. That creates a hostile work environment. These are not protected opinions. These are violations of basic professional conduct. Ambassador looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. She had not said anything during the entire exchange. Danny suspected she was trying to figure out how to minimize the diplomatic damage. What specific actions do you propose? Asked. Gregory Hall should be removed from his position immediately and sent back to Earth. He is a disgrace to humanity and should not represent us anywhere. Gregory tried to speak, but two security officers moved to stand behind him. He closed his mouth. Should be demoted. Let him work in waste processing for a few months. Perhaps he will learn humility. Blake continued down her list. Should be sent back to with a formal complaint filed against her. Her diplomatic career should reflect this failure of judgment. Now wait just a moment, N protested. You cannot dictate consequences for citizens. I am not dictating anything, Blake said. I am making recommendations. You are free to ignore them, and I am free to take my fleet, my people, and my trade elsewhere. The can decide if A's opinion was worth losing human business. N sat down, clearly angry but unable to argue. Al's trading license should be suspended for one cycle. Actions have consequences. He chose to mock compassion publicly. Let him explain to his business partners why he lost access to this station. Rubbed his face with one hand. Is there anything else, Admiral? Yes, Commander. Blake turned to face the security chief who stood near the door. You arrived during the incident 3 days ago. You said, and I quote, "The strong do not stop for the weak." You told Martinez to remember that. His face remained expressionless, prided themselves on showing no emotion. I stated a fact, Admiral. That is how the galaxy works. That is how your galaxy works, Commander, not ours. I want a formal apology to Danny Martinez. Public, in writing, distributed to every worker on this station. I will not apologize for stating truth. Then you will find yourself escorting empty corridors, Commander, because I will make sure every human worker on this station transfers elsewhere. I wonder how your superiors will feel when they learn you cost them contracts with humanity's fastest-growing trade companies. The two of them stared at each other. Broke first. His jaw tightened, but he nodded once. I will prepare the apology. Good. Blake turned back to the council. Finally, Danny Martinez should receive full compensation for the 2 weeks of lost pay, plus additional compensation for being wrongfully punished. Furthermore, I am offering him a position in my fleet. He has the qualities I value in my officers: integrity, compassion, courage. These matter more than technical skills which can be taught. That Danny's head was spinning. A position in the fleet, the Admiral's fleet. He had barely finished his basic education. He worked maintenance. He was nobody special. Mr. Martinez, Blake said, looking at him directly, I am offering you the rank of Junior Liaison Officer on the UHS Valiant. The position comes with full training, proper quarters, and the chance to serve with people who share your values. What do you say? Danny started, then stopped. His brain was moving too slow. Are you serious? I am always serious about personnel decisions. I choose my officers based on character, not credentials. You have more character than most people I have met in 40 years of military service. But I am just a maintenance worker. Right now, tomorrow you can be something more if you want it. Danny thought about his sister's school, his mother's medical bills, the money he sent home every month. I have family responsibilities, people depending on me. Your pay would triple, plus benefits and hazard compensation. I imagine that would help your family considerably more than your current situation. Admiral Blake interrupted. All of this seems quite extreme. Perhaps we can negotiate a more balanced solution. Blake turned her cold eyes on him. You think this is extreme, Chancellor? Let me tell you what extreme looks like. Extreme is walking past a starving woman every day for 3 weeks and pretending she does not exist. Extreme is punishing kindness because it makes you uncomfortable. Extreme is building a society where compassion is treated as weakness. We are not perfect, admitted, but we are not evil either. I never said you were evil. Evil knows what it does. Most of you simply do not care. You have created systems where cruelty is convenient and kindness is punished. That is not evil. That is worse. That is apathy. The chamber went silent. Blake let her words hang there for a long moment. I will give you 12 hours to decide, she finally said. Accept my terms and humanity remains your partner. Reject them and we leave. It is that simple. 12 hours is not much time to make decisions that affect thousands of people, said. Then I suggest you work quickly, Chancellor. Blake turned to her officers. Captain Cole, please escort Mr. Martinez to our shuttle. I would like to speak with him privately. Captain Cole, a man who looked about 40 with sharp features and knowing eyes, stepped forward. Yes, Admiral. This way, Mr. Martinez. Danny followed the captain out of the council chamber. His head was still spinning. Behind them, he could hear the council erupting into heated debate. The sound faded as they walked through the corridors. First time meeting the Admiral? Cole asked. Yes, sir. She has that effect on people. Do not worry, you get used to it. She really did disguise herself as a beggar. She does it all the time. Sometimes she is a dock worker. Sometimes she is a janitor. Last year she spent a month as a cook on a mining station. She wants to see how people behave when they think nobody important is watching. That is crazy. Cole smiled. That is the Admiral. She believes character matters more than anything else, and she is willing to go to extreme lengths to test it. They reached the docking bay where the human shuttle waited. It was sleek and military, nothing like the cargo haulers Danny was used to. Cole gestured for him to enter. Inside, the shuttle was clean and efficient. Comfortable seats, good lighting, equipment that actually worked. It was a stark contrast to the beaten-up maintenance bay where Danny spent his shifts. Admiral Blake arrived a few minutes later with the rest of her officers. She sat across from Danny as the shuttle disconnected from the station and headed toward the Valiant. I imagine you have questions, she said. A few hundred, Danny admitted. Ask the most important one first. Why? Why go through all this for someone you met once? Blake looked out the window at the massive fleet surrounding the station. Because, Mr. Martinez, the galaxy is full of people who talk about honor and strength and civilization. But very few of them actually demonstrate those qualities when it costs them something. You did. You sacrificed your comfort, your money, and your reputation to help someone who could not help you in return. That is the rarest quality in the universe. I just gave you food. You gave me dignity. You proved that humans are not the weak, emotional fools that species like the think we are. You proved that compassion is not weakness. It is strength. The kind of strength that empires are built on. Danny looked at his hands. They were still dirty from waste processing. I am not special, Admiral. I just did what felt right. That is exactly what makes you special, Blake said. You did not think about rewards or consequences. You saw someone who needed help and you helped. That is the foundation of everything humanity stands for. The shuttle approached the Valiant. Through the window, Danny could see the massive warship growing larger. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The UHS Valiant was like nothing Danny had ever seen. The corridors were wide and clean. The crew moved with purpose and discipline. Everything worked perfectly. It was the opposite of the maintenance tunnels he had spent 6 months crawling through. Captain Cole took him to guest quarters near the officer section. The room was small but comfortable. A real bed, not a bunk. A private bathroom with hot water that actually got hot. A desk with a proper chair. Danny had been sharing a room with 3 other workers on the station. This felt like luxury. Get cleaned up, Cole said. There are uniforms in the closet. Pick one that fits. The Admiral wants to have dinner with you in 2 hours. Dinner with the Admiral? She does that with potential recruits. Wants to get to know them before they make a final decision. Cole smiled. Try to relax. She does not bite. Cole left. Danny stood in the middle of the room for a minute, still trying to process everything. 12 hours ago, he had been cleaning waste filters. Now he was on a warship with an admiral who wanted to make him an officer. He showered for the first time in 3 days. The hot water felt amazing. His hands were raw and his back hurt, but the shower helped. He found a simple uniform in the closet that was close to his size. Dark blue, clean, with lieutenant insignia on the shoulders. It felt wrong wearing it when he had not earned the rank yet. A young officer appeared at his door exactly 2 hours later. The man looked about Danny's age, maybe a year or two older. He had friendly eyes and an easy smile. Mr. Martinez, I am Lieutenant Wright. The Admiral sent me to escort you to her quarters. Just Danny is fine. Good, just for me then. They started walking through the ship. First time on a military vessel. First time on anything that was not falling apart. Laughed. Yeah, the Valiant is pretty nice. Admiral Blake runs a tight ship. Everything works, everyone knows their job, and nobody tolerates nonsense. Well, what is she like? Really like, I mean. Honest, fair, tough, but not cruel. She expects the best from everyone and somehow gets it. People would follow her into a black hole if she asked. People keep calling her a legend. That is because she is one. 10 years ago, the Empire tried to push into human space. They had superior numbers, better technology, and more experience. Everyone thought humanity would lose territory. But Admiral Blake held the borderlands with just 6 battle groups. She outthought them, outfought them, and eventually convinced them that fighting humans was more trouble than it was worth. After that, other species started taking us seriously. They reached a door marked with Admiral insignia, knocked once. Come in, Blake's voice called. The quarters were larger than Danny's, but not by much. The Admiral believed in leading by example, apparently. A table was set with simple food. Real food, not protein packs. Roasted chicken, vegetables, bread that smelled fresh. Thank you, Lieutenant Wright, Blake said. That will be all. Left, closing the door behind him. Blake gestured to a chair. Please sit. I hope you are hungry. My cook prepared too much as usual. Danny sat. His stomach growled at the smell of real food. This looks amazing. It is one of the few luxuries I allow myself. Good food. It reminds me that civilization is worth fighting for. She served him a plate and took one for herself. How are you adjusting to the ship? They're still processing everything honestly. That is understandable. Your life changed dramatically in a very short time. She took a bite of chicken. I should explain something about what I do. The disguise testing, I mean. Danny nodded, his mouth full of the best food he had tasted in months. I have been doing this for 8 years, Blake continued. I visit stations, colonies, outposts, places where different species mix. I dress as someone powerless and I watch how people behave. Most places fail the test. People ignore me or treat me badly. Every few months, I find someone who passes, someone who helps without expecting anything in return. Well, what do you do with people who pass? I offer them a choice. They can return to their normal lives or they can join my organization. Not all of them choose to join. Some prefer their existing paths, but those who do join become part of something larger, a group of people who proved their character when it mattered. How many people have passed your tests? In 8 years, 47, you would be 48. Blake set down her fork. Those 47 people now serve throughout the human fleet and diplomatic corps. They are some of the best officers and representatives we have, because they understand something that most people forget. Power comes with responsibility. The strong must protect the weak. Not because it benefits them, but because it is right. That sounds like something from an old movie. Blake smiled. Perhaps, but old movies became classics for a reason. They remind us of values that matter: honor, duty, compassion. These things do not change just because technology advances or empires rise and fall. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Danny was aware that he was eating with one of the most powerful military commanders in human space. But somehow it did not feel awkward. Blake had a way of making people comfortable. The council accepted your terms, Blake said suddenly. I received word while you were cleaning up, all of them. Gregory Hall is being sent back to Earth, has been demoted to waste processing, is being recalled to her. Al's license is suspended, and Commander will issue a formal apology tomorrow. They actually agreed to all of it. They had no choice. The alternative was losing human business entirely. Nexus Station makes 40% of its revenue from human trade. They could not afford to refuse. So you won? We won, Blake corrected. You were the one who proved humans are not weak. You were the one who demonstrated that compassion matters. I just made sure the right people paid attention. Danny thought about Gregory Hall's face when Blake listed her demands, about shock, about A's anger. They are going to hate me. They already hated you. Now they just have to face consequences for that hatred. There is a difference. But I guess. Danny, may I tell you something I learned a long time ago? Blake's expression was serious now. The galaxy is full of people who mistake cruelty for strength. They think being harsh makes them powerful. They think compassion is weakness. But here is the truth. Anyone can be cruel. It takes no courage to ignore suffering. It takes no strength to mock kindness. Real power is choosing to help when you could easily walk away. Real strength is caring about others even when it costs you something. Is that why you test people? To find the ones who understand that? Exactly. I need officers who will make hard choices for the right reasons, who will protect people weaker than themselves, who understand that honor is not just a word, it is a way of living. She poured water for both of them. Which brings us to the important question, do you want to join my fleet? I am offering you real training, real responsibility, and the chance to be part of something that matters. But it will not be easy. Military service never is. You will work harder than you ever have. You will face danger. You will make decisions that affect other people's lives, so I need you to be certain. Danny thought about his sister, his mother, the family responsibilities he had been carrying. The pay really triples. Yes, plus hazard pay when applicable. Plus benefits that cover family members back on Earth. Your sister could attend any school she wants with fleet education benefits. Your mother would have access to military medical care, which is the best available. That changed things. Danny had been working himself half to death just to keep his family afloat. This opportunity could actually give them security. Real security, not just survival. But was that the only reason? He thought about the old woman sitting in the market. He thought about Gregory's cruel words. Mocking, the way people had laughed at him for caring. Blake had been right. Most people mistook cruelty for strength. Danny had seen it every day on the station. People stepping on others to climb higher, ignoring those who needed help because helping was inconvenient, treating kindness like it was something embarrassing. I want to join, Danny said. Not just for the pay, though that helps a lot, but because I want to be part of something that matters. I want to work with people who think compassion is strength, not weakness. Blake's face softened into a genuine smile, the kind that reached her eyes. Then welcome to the Fifth Fleet, Junior Liaison Officer Martinez. Report to Captain Cole tomorrow morning at 700. He will start your training. They finished dinner talking about what training would involve. Basic officer courses, protocol lessons, physical conditioning, learning about ship operations and military procedure. It sounded overwhelming, but Blake assured him everyone started somewhere. A message arrived on Blake's console as they were finishing. She read it and nodded. The formal apology from Commander has been posted to the station's public network. Every worker has access to it. Well, what does it say? Blake turned the screen so Danny could see. The message was short but clear. Commander apologized for his harsh words. He acknowledged that compassion was not weakness. He stated that Danny Martinez had shown qualities that deserved respect, not mockery. He must hate writing that, Danny said. Probably, but sometimes people need to be forced to acknowledge what is right, even if they do not believe it yet. Maybe someday he will understand. Maybe not. Either way, the message is sent. Actions have consequences. They talked for another hour about the fleet, about Blake's career, about the challenges humanity faced in galactic politics. Blake was surprisingly easy to talk to once you got past her intimidating reputation. She had strong opinions, but listened when Danny offered different perspectives. She treated him like his thoughts mattered, not like he was just some kid she was doing a favor for. Finally, Blake stood. You should get some rest. Tomorrow starts your new life and you will need energy for it. Danny stood as well. Admiral, can I ask one more question? Of course. Why me, really? I know what you said about character and all that. But there must be thousands of people in the galaxy who would help a stranger. Why was I special? Blake was quiet for a moment. You are right. There are good people everywhere, but most of them help when it is safe to do so. When there are no consequences, you helped when you knew it would cause you problems. You helped after your supervisor mocked you. You helped after aliens called you weak. You did not apologize or back down. That is what made you special, not the kindness itself, but the courage to be kind even when everyone told you not to be. She walked him to the door. Get some rest. Officer Martinez. Tomorrow we start making you into the person I already see when I look at you." Danny returned to his quarters with his head spinning. He lay in the comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. 1 week ago, he had been a nobody, a maintenance worker sending money home and trying to survive. Now he was an officer in the Fifth Fleet, serving under a legend. All because he gave an old woman a protein pack. He thought about the galaxy Blake had described, full of people who mistook cruelty for strength, who thought being harsh made them powerful, who mocked compassion. But Blake was building something different. An organization of people who had proved their character, who understood that real strength was protecting those weaker than yourself, who knew that honor meant something more than just words. Danny closed his eyes and smiled. Tomorrow would be hard. Training would be difficult. The responsibility would be heavy. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. On Nexus Station, Gregory Hall packed his belongings with shaking hands. His career was over. His reputation destroyed, all because he punished some stupid kid for being soft. Reported to waste processing level 7 with burning anger in his chest. This was Danny's fault. If Martinez had just kept his head down, none of this would have happened. Aborted a transport to the, knowing her diplomatic career was finished. She had spoken her honest opinion. Why was she being punished for honesty? Al watched his trading partners cancel contracts one by one. His business was collapsing, all because he laughed at a human helping a beggar. But none of them understood. They saw their punishments as unfair. They saw themselves as victims. They did not see that their own choices had led them here. They did not understand that mocking kindness had consequences. A high chancellor sat in his office looking at reports. Human trade was continuing. The diplomatic incident was resolved. The fleet was leaving tomorrow. Everything was returning to normal. But he knew something had changed. The humans had shown their strength. Not with weapons, though the fleet surrounding his station proved they had those, but with values. With the courage to stand up for what was right even when it was inconvenient. Other species would hear about this. They would learn that humanity protected its own, that humans valued character over profit, That mocking human compassion was a mistake. Looked out his window at the human warships positioned around the station. Beautiful, deadly, and disciplined, just like the woman who commanded them. He made a note to himself. In the future, treat humans with more respect, not because they demanded it, but because they had earned it. In his quarters on the Valiant, Danny Martinez slept peacefully for the first time in months. He dreamed of stars and ships and a future where kindness mattered more than cruelty. And on the bridge, Admiral Blake looked at her fleet with satisfaction. Another good person found. Another officer recruited. Another reminder sent to the galaxy that humanity would not compromise on what mattered. The strong must protect the weak. Power must come with responsibility, and compassion was not weakness. It was the strongest force in the universe. What happens now? He asked. Now, Blake said with a slight smile, we see if the council makes the right choice. And then, if you accept my offer, we start turning you into an officer. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Looked at the tactical display showing the human fleet surrounding his station. 73 warships. Any one of them could destroy the station if ordered. What would you have us do, Admiral? He asked quietly. Blake smiled. It was not a kind smile. 72 hours, she said to the empty room. Then we will see who is weak. But Danny just walked home, thinking about how he would explain things to his manager tomorrow. He wondered if would actually report him. He wondered if helping one hungry person was really worth all this trouble. The answer, he decided, was yes, even if it cost him everything. Some things mattered more than money or job security. Some things defined who you were as a person. Behind him, the old woman stood up slowly. She looked at the empty protein pack in her hands. Then she looked in the direction Danny had gone. She stood there for a long time, thinking about what she had just witnessed. Finally, she walked away into the shadows of the lower market, disappearing like she had never been there at all.